Hello, entrepreneurs, dreamers, business owners, and happy people with high hopes. Welcome to Cashflows with your host, Cash Matthews.
All right, good afternoon. Glad to have you here today. I am Cash Matthews. Our show is called Cashflows. This is a place where we talk about the good life with our friends. And those of you out there on the internet taking a look, we are so glad you're here today. And so let's, New Year's is coming up, Kenneth.
Oh man, yeah, it is.
This is an odd time of the year, just for people in general. And, any New Year's resolutions for you?
I need to get them written down, but I am working on some goals for the new year. Yeah. And kind of quantify how many, one-on-ones or meetings, things like that I want to have. Really focus on the lead gen side.
Very cool. What do you think about these people that put these memes up that are like, "This is my year. I'm a beast."
Well, there's an author that I follow that I kind of like the way he thinks about this as well, and I know you've expressed this in past episodes that really the best time to start something is today.
Yeah.
So there's no sense in really waiting for January 1 to do that. Like, let's just rock it out. Let's do it.
Very cool.
So I'm glad we kicked off these podcasts too. You kind of did that without waiting for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we just kind of thought of it and did it, and now here we are on show number 1100.
I think we are recording number 12 right now, maybe 13.
All right, Lou, lucky
check.
13. Okay,
Yeah.
In a minute we're going to introduce Chinh Doan, our guest today on Cashflows. But before we do that, our show is about the things in life that matter, and that can be business or personal. It can be professional. It can be just an excellent way of thinking about ordinary problems for extraordinary people. And so we're glad you're here today. And let me officially introduce my co-conspirator in all of this, Mr. Kenneth B.O.N.G. Kenneth.
Oh, yes, sir.
Got a great question for you as we lead into the new year.
Right.
And here's that question for you, sir. And that is, what's a guy like you doing in a nice place like this?
Today I am practicing being the undercover superhero of good manners and epic dad jokes.
Ooh, okay. Good manners.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. That was bad. My bad. But, congratulations on that role. I think we all have to have lofty goals, and that's a great one.
Yeah.
All righty. So Cashflows is a place to execute. And this concept behind us on the wall, fire, aim, ready. So many people, Kenneth, they get in business and they think about it and they're fixing. In Oklahoma, we call it fixing to. Hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm fixing to. I'm picking to go do whatever. But you can't talk your way to success. You can only do your way to success. So we are about taking aim shortly after pulling the trigger. So glad everybody's here. And with that, it is a great honor to introduce our esteemed guest, my BFF.
That's right.
And great friend, Chinh Doan.
That's right.
Also known as Chen Lozano.
Yes, that's right. I had many names.
Okay, so we're just going to start right there. I know we have a lot to talk about today. This is going to be awesome. But something happened recently at a big church.
Yes.
Walk us through what's been going on the last week or so of your life.
So I married the love of my life. His name is Steve Lozano.
Yes.
Yes, on December 2nd at our parish Holy Family Cathedral in downtown Tulsa. It was everything we wanted and more. The bishop celebrated our wedding with 4 priests and 2 deacons. It was in 3 different languages to symbolize our cultures, our family, our backgrounds. And then we had a big reception at the Big Ten Historic Ballroom, which was so special to me because it was the only place that musicians in the area at the time could perform,
Right.
who were of Black descent. So all these talented people were able to perform there and no other place. And I wanted to, my husband's a DJ. We love music. We love the arts. And so we wanted to give a nod to the history of that, honor all those musicians who've come before. And then also it's a nonprofit. So we wanted to pay a nonprofit rather than a venue.
Right.
And it was extra special because Etta James was one of the performers, and our first dance was At Last. So everything we did with the ceremony and the reception were very intentional. Every little bit, from what we wore to the songs we chose to the food to the people who were there to the placement of each person, everything was very well thought out. And I'm just very grateful that everything turned out exactly what we wanted and more. And we used all B.O.N.G members for vendors.
Wow.
Because, again, you build relationships and you do business with people you know, love, and trust. I knew all of those people. All of our vendors that we chose would be reliable. I knew they did great work, but most importantly, I had relationships with them.
Right.
And I knew that they love me and my family, so I knew that they would do an amazing job above and beyond. Like, seriously, I could not have asked for better vendors.
Yeah, Chin, that was a great event. Call out the ballroom name one more time so that our listeners can take a look at what's going on.
It's
with
called Historic Big Ten Ballroom.
Okay.
So back then, it was just Big Ten Ballroom.
it. Right.
But because of the history and everything, it's Historic Big Ten Ballroom. And, it sat vacant for years after it shut down. And a very, I would say, well-known musician in the area, Doc Lester Shaw. His name is Dr. Les Shaw, but everybody calls him Doc. He's a musician, philanthropist, a music teacher, and so he was like, he couldn't stand to see it sit vacant. And so he raised a lot of money from the ground up and renovated it, and now he uses it as a place for high school students to come to get to perform and learn the arts together. So
Wow.
it's
I mean, what a contribution that
Mhm.
place is making,
Mhm.
not to just that part of town, but to all of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, your wedding was exceptional. I don't know that they'll have another event that goes as well. I mean, it was an event.
yeah.
I've been to
he and
lots of
his
receptions, but that was an event, and it was phenomenal.
he and his wife were guests of mine because they became our friends, and they said, Chin, this was an incredible event. Thank you for using us, because so many people said, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this. And actually, several people have gone to look at the venue as a prospective uh, place for them
Well,
after
we would
hearing
love to
them.
get him on this show because we would like to hear that story.
Yeah.
So somewhere down the road, let's make sure we get those, give them the recognition that they're due. What a great event. Now, you mentioned the Bong,
Yes.
and it's the Business Owners Networking Group.
That's
It's
right.
not some bad habit that you have. Or I don't mean to be judgmental there. That's not who I am. So we like to talk about the Business Owners Networking Group. It's it has a local implication, but from a national standpoint, what we're doing there matters,
It does.
and what we're doing there has an impact. And maybe we'll take this thing across the country. Talk to our listeners today about what the Bong is, how you found it. Just give some of mine and your history about
Sure.
how all this started, why we're sitting here today.
So my first B.O.N.G meeting was in July of 2023.
Right.
And B.O.N.G meetings are usually on Tuesdays. But this one, because of July 4th holiday, it fell on a Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I wear pink. It's something I've done for, I think, 15 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Pink is my favorite color. Wednesday is one of my favorite days, I should say. And it just perks me up. And it comes from one of my favorite movies, Mean Girls. On Wednesdays, they wear pink. So it's something ever since the movie came out, I just stuck with it. So because that meeting was on a Wednesday, I wore a pink dress.
Got it.
And that's when Mr. Cash Matthews was like, hey, pink lady. So that day, all I was known as pink lady, pink lady, pink lady. And
I'm pretty rudimentary when I talk to people.
oh no, I was like, hey, at least he recognizes I'm wearing pink, because sometimes you know how men are.
I put the rude in rudimentary.
But yeah, so it was my first meeting, and made some contacts there, and was like, let's see how this goes. And then I had a one-on-one with you at Panera
That's right. I remember that.
not long after. And then you asked me to be a speaker. And I was like, okay, sure. I mean, I've done lots of public speaking, but not necessarily in a networking setting like this. So, 5 minutes really isn't that much time. And you told me to just share my story, which my story, and you'll see in a little bit, is so long. So I was like, how am I going to tell my story in 5 minutes? I'll try my best. But I did, and I'll always remember that day. It was the August meeting,
Right.
because we met in my first was in July, and then you immediately invited me to speak at the next meeting. And the other speakers were Micah and Kyle, and Micah Pope and Kyle Sullivan, and
Right.
they have incredible stories of
Yes,
their
they
own.
do. Both been on this show, by the way.
I mean, seriously, and so all three of us, all the time, anytime we're together, we're like, oh my gosh, do you remember that epic day? That epic day that all three of us spoke? And we made everybody cry. And I'm like, it was just such an amazing day. And I think that's when it clicked to me that, like, this is not just a networking group. This is where you build relationships and become a family and walk side by side in life. And gosh, Micah's one of my best friends. We talk all the time, and she's just so thoughtful. And Kyle, he's
Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah, he's a rock
He's
star.
changing lives, So to think that we have all these incredible people, in our circle is just makes me feel so blessed.
Yeah, we are excited to be in that circle. And you talk about Micah and Kyle. They've been on this show, and they are doing great things out in the world. Just to hear their story and to be nearby and see the story unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to add a little bit to your story. We've done some great things. The B.O.N.G group has grown dramatically. This morning, we hit 5,500 vetted members. Yeah, it's awesome. But that's because of the people developing and building into other people, and that's sort of our message. But we've done a couple of other things together. We did a talent show together. Yeah, where I launched my comedy career. Thank you for laughing at it, not near it.
And where your daughter performed so beautifully
My
and won
daughter,
first
Sarah.
place.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, I'm one of the judges.
So talented. No, you were not.
No, I wasn't. But
it was not rigged.
But that was just such a great event. There's another event coming to my mind is you and I co-hosted the Business Owners Networking, the B.O.N.G Prom.
B.O.N.G Prom.
B.O.N.G Prom was awesome, and that's where we give out our annual awards.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall an award that was given out at the kind of at the end of the awards.
You tricked me.
I don't know that I did that, but my company, the Solomon Group, every so often we meet somebody who impresses us on all of the levels, their character, their story, their resilience, their contribution. And we created an award many years ago called the Hope Award. And I recall that you were awarded the Hope Award. And I got you pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So for those who were not there, I'm such a planner, and I went through all of the details, making sure everything was right. As we were presenting the awards and everything, we're done. And he's like, why don't you have a seat? I'm thinking, why would I have a seat? I'm your co-host. Like, why am I sitting down? And then I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go and sit down next to my mom, and then he comes and Cash takes a picture of me and my mom, and I'm like thinking, this is strange. Like, this in the middle of our, I guess, award ceremony,
right.
And then you're just like telling me to sit down. Then you're taking a picture of my mom, and then you somehow pulled out of nowhere another award because we already given out all the awards.
Right.
And I was so emotional because I had my mom there, I had my fiance there, and my business family there essentially,
right.
And you described what the award was for, and then you gave me a moment to speak, and all I can think about was how far our family has come.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was standing in front of my peers receiving an award for hope, which is the one thing that like I live my life on, which is the one thing I talk about how like that's the most valuable thing you can have and something that people can't take away from you, and it's something you can give others. So I was like, this is coming full circle. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I was bawling.
I might have been a little bit as well.
I was crying. There was a beautiful picture of us hugging, and I was a hot mess. Like, good thing I have, waterproof makeup on all the time because
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful moment that I'll never forget, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Well, you showed up, Jen, and Kenneth, we've given that award out. My company's been around about 40 years, and we've given it out twice. There have been 2 times in my entire life that I've been so compelled by somebody. So we're happy to have you here today at Cashflows. Did you bring Kleenex?
I can find some.
Okay, I don't know. Are we going to have weeping today?
Probably, because I get emotional anytime I talk about my parents and their sacrifices.
I did not know your dad, but I know of your dad. And so, what a great, how proud he must be of you to have seen how far you've come. But I love your mom, and your mom is just exceptional. And
sweetheart.
Yeah, so she really brings a lot to our community just in how she loves people. So, all right, well, let's we want to get to know Chinh Doan here a little bit. And So Chin, you are a Channel News 6 reporter,
Yes.
but you also have your own business. Can you just identify those two businesses real quick? I mean, I think the world knows you're one of the anchors of Channel 6.
Yes.
And
So,
tell us about your other business, though.
so I'm a weekend anchor at Channel 6, and I report also. And then my mom and I, we have a housekeeping business. And then I'm a makeup artist. So I do makeup for special events, weddings, photo shoots. I collaborate with a lot of B.O.N.G photographers
Right.
for their clients. And then I also sell anti-aging skincare and makeup from a company based in Sapulpa.
Oh, great.
And so I also train a team who does the same. So essentially three businesses, because there's the makeup artistry side, the direct selling of Synergent side, and
Right.
then the housekeeping business side.
And I don't know, one of the times I asked you, when do you sleep? And you're like, oh, I have to schedule it.
I do.
Yeah.
And that will be one of my business tips for when you ask me about scheduling and time blocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, you work hard.
Oh, I do. But I
And
also play hard.
yes, you do.
I work hard to play hard.
You know, a few of us went on a cruise with you.
Yeah.
And I know I'm 62. Not many people can stay up past me. Like, I'm the Energizer Bunny. I'm the
Yep.
gray-haired Energizer Bunny. That one.
Right. Right.
But, like, I was going to bed and Chin was like, let's go. You did everything.
I did. I really took advantage of everything. Granted, it was our first cruise, and I wanted to explore everything and wanted to know everything about it. And I did like every activity possible, and I only slept whenever there were no activities.
Yeah. That it was impressive. We all talked about it. Like, is Chen still going? Did she sleep? Where do we get those batteries? What is she drinking?
Right.
So let's talk about you on a personal level. I know you've got a lot going on, a wedding and a business and your job as a news anchor. How do you stay motivated to wake up in the morning? Because I have never seen you down. What's motivating? What keeps you going?
So I get up at 6 o'clock every morning, even on weekends, even on my days off, because again, I'm so big on time blocking and staying on schedule.
Yeah.
So what motivates me is knowing that our time is limited and knowing, again, the sacrifices my parents have made for me. And I want to make sure that I do everything I can to honor them and also support our family back in Vietnam, because it's crazy to say that I'm the richest person in my family. You know, I'm the first in my family to own a home. I'm the first in my
Wow.
family to go to college. I'm the first in my family to be able to manage multiple businesses and a career and basically get to do anything I want. And by anything, I mean the possibilities in America is endless, right?
Truth.
So I can set my mind to anything and eventually reach that goal. So that's something that my family in Vietnam cannot say. You know, they live in a communist country. They're poor. They're not educated like me. So knowing that I have endless opportunities and there's no limit, why would I waste that? Why
Yeah.
would I not make the most of my time and the opportunities I have? That's why I wake up at 6 o'clock every morning.
So you talked about time blocking and why you're talking then about discipline.
Hmm.
And when you have discipline, that's really discipline is about making certain positive behaviors non-negotiable.
Exactly.
I know you have some things in your life that are just non-negotiable. What are those things?
Oh, yeah. And so that's one of my business tips as well. You know, when I do public speaking and people want to ask for advice, I tell everybody, no matter your age, no matter what you do for a living, no matter what your goals are, you have to have non negotiables, right? Because if you don't build your priorities and let people know what those priorities are, you're going to get distracted and people are going to pull you all over the place, you know? For me, for example, my non negotiables include being with people who align with my values because I don't want to be distracted from what my values are,
True.
you know? And then when it comes to dating, you know, I was very picky on who I dated because I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to waste their time. So for me, I knew I wanted to date somebody who was religious and God was a big part of their life. I knew I wanted to date somebody who was a family man. I knew I wanted to date somebody who knew of my background and knew how my mom and I go hand in hand. We are a package deal.
Right.
Buy one, get one. There's no return or exchange. And so, for example, when I started dating Steve, he knew about my mom immediately. He didn't get to meet her immediately because I'm very picky on who I bring into my life, especially my mom. So when I felt like he was the one, I introduced him to my parents, and he was so open to the concept of like Chin takes care of her parents, and he actually saw that as such a beneficial thing because he knew that I would be such a good person to take care of our children
Right.
and help him with his family and family values. And so, but not everybody's open to that concept. And so
Right.
I just knew my priorities.
So you had a filter system in place when you were in the dating realm.
Exactly. And I do the same when it comes to my clients. I do the same when it comes to who I bring onto my team, my sales force. I want to make sure these people align with my values, and I interview them before I say, hey, just join my team. I don't just have anybody join my team.
Right.
I want to know, what's your goal of joining my team? How much money do you want to make? And let's be realistic about that. How much time are you willing to put into this business and things like that?
So you find people and align with people who are goal oriented.
Yes.
Kenneth and I were just talking about goals for 24,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's some wisdom. So I don't know if we'll have enough time to hear your entire story today. I hope we get at least a little bit of it. But if you could go back and give 5-year-old Chen one piece of advice, what would you? Because your upbringing was different. You came from Vietnam. You had to leave your mother behind. I mean, I don't know that we really want to tell your story because Kenneth and I are open weepers. And,
That's okay.
It could take 20 minutes of it, just the weeping sounds. But what advice would you give to 5-year-old you?
5-year-old me was very confused and scared, and wanted her mom. That's all she wanted.
Yeah.
And so I tell my 5-year-old self that everything's going to work out. God is going to take care of you, and He's going to send angels all around you in the form of teachers who take you home and feed you, in the form of godparents who allow you to stay the night with them because your dad works overnights, in the forms of mentors who take you under their wings and help you, and strangers who would donate to your cause to help you sponsor your mother over. So, when you're 5, I think you just tend to focus on one thing, like, I want my mom. Where's my mom? When do I get my mom? And then now looking back, everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. Everything I experienced led me to who I am today. It gave me that empathy. It gave me the ability to see people for people and value people for who they are. And also keeps me so humble. Like, because when you come from nothing, like, everything is a blessing to you. You're just so grateful for everything. And then you try your best to help other people because you've been where they are.
Right.
So, 5-year-old me has grown a lot. Maybe not physically, because I'm still about the same height as 5-year-old me. But as far as growing into a young woman who loves people and loves Jesus and sees the power of prayer and people come together, I would say that's what I would say to 5-year-old me, that everything will work out. You'll be okay.
And for you, man, it's such a beautiful story. I mean, I don't know if our listeners know this, but Chen and her mom and dad were coming to America many years ago, and due to some incidents or to some legality, paperwork stuff, Chen's mom could not make the trip, and they had to make a decision on the spot: go to America and seek freedom, or just stay behind. And you and your father trekked over to America, landed in Oklahoma City, and what a story! That how long were you separated from your mother?
So, my dad and I landed in Oklahoma City August 31st, 1994. I was 4 years old. Christmas, I would turn 5. And my mom didn't reunite with us until May of 2012, so almost 18 years later.
Oh, my goodness.
So, the older you get, the more you think of, like, how much life goes by without you, or
Right.
how fast kids grow, and to think about 18 years from the age of 4 to 22, gosh, that's first day of kindergarten, prom, dating, sports, awards, tutoring, like every little thing that a parent wants to experience with a child. My mom missed out on that.
Right.
We always wrote her letters because back then it was letters. It was not FaceTime and Zoom and all the luxuries of technology. But, it would take 2 to 3 weeks for one letter,
Right.
and she would read it and she would write it back. So we tried our best to stay in communication. My dad did his best, but we were also very poor when we lived and when we first moved here. And so we didn't have the luxury of, using international calling cards because they were about $1 a minute.
Oh, wow.
So we would call maybe once in a while, maybe talk for 5 minutes. And then for the majority, it was letter writing.
Wow. Well, that's, the story of you and your mom, it inspires me because I think about your mom and the sacrifice she made,
Mm-hmm.
that you would have something greater. I mean, it's really the story of Jesus. Jesus sacrificed his life so that we could have more.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom did the same thing for you.
Yeah.
And what a great message that is. And your mom is so humble and sweet and unbelievable.
Yes.
And that she would be willing to do that for you in deference to herself. Man, what a story.
I tell her this all the time. I'm like, Mom, you're the most incredible person I know because you gave up your baby to move to another country, not knowing if we would lose our relationship, not knowing if something would happen to me. How could you do that? As a parent, how could you let your child go and not knowing what would happen in the future? And she said, because I knew what your future would be if you stayed here. And so the alternative was not an option for us. And so she knew that she had to let me go because there would at least be a chance of me getting an education and becoming something other than living in poverty in Vietnam. Because if we would have stayed on track and stayed together as a family in Vietnam, I would have maybe been able to get an 8th grade education because everything in Vietnam costs money, from your transportation to your tuition to your books to your uniforms to your food. Everything costs money.
Wow.
So when you're poor, you can't afford, that's like sending someone to college, right? You just can't afford that. And so you kind of do what you can to get your children to have like at least basic writing and math and something like that so they can get their life going. But kids in Vietnam, especially the poor ones, grow up very fast because they don't have any other option. They
Right.
got to start working and make money, take care of their family because their parents don't have Social Security, 401k, retirement, and all those things.
Right.
So in Vietnam, you work until maybe you're 50 and the world sees you as no longer usable. They don't have age discrimination laws and things like that like we do
Right.
here, right? And so companies won't take you if they consider you old and not usable. So the
Well,
kids take care of their parents. And so and my parents are older parents. They had me much later in life. So they knew that I would have to start working very soon to take care of them. And they didn't want that for me. That's what happened to my siblings.
Right.
And they saw that. And so, I will always say, I often do ask, like, God, why me? Like, why was I the chosen one? Like, why was I the one that got to live in America, get an education, experience life in such a different light than my siblings? Why did I get to pursue the American dream, And so because of that, again, that's my motivation to wake up. I have to make it worthwhile,
So for you, Chin, the American dream is very real.
It is so real.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in like it ever being over. Like it's not like, oh, I checked this thing off, my American dream is realized. I'm living my American dream every day.
Yeah.
I come up with new dreams every day. And that is the beautiful thing about America is you can have as many dreams as you want.
Right. Oh, I think that is awesome. What's really fun for me is seeing how much your mom is now in the community and like how many people know her and love her. And she has her own identity and her own brand.
She loves it here.
And she's doing so great.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so great to see her at your home. By the way, okay, walk us. We're gonna shift a little bit. Great story. Is it weird to have your birthday on
Christmas Day?
Christmas Day?
Well, so my dad was a devout Catholic, and Christmas was his favorite holiday. Like, obsessed with Christmas. And so nobody was surprised when he had a child on Christmas Day.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, I was premature. I was about a month premature.
Oh.
I was not, scheduled to be born on Christmas Day, except God was like,
Except you were.
exactly. And so it caught everybody off guard. My mom was in labor on Christmas Day. And my dad was so excited that he had a Christmas baby. And when we moved to America and we could afford to have a Christmas tree, he had a Christmas tree year round. And to the day he
Yes.
died,
That is a great idea.
there was still a Christmas tree up. He had a Christmas tree all the time. And I was always worried that we were going to catch our house on fire. Because, to have the lights be on all year,
I think that's beautiful. We're called to be individuals, and it sounds like your dad really just loved everything about Jesus and Christmas and you. And
He did.
What a great Christmas present.
Yes. So, yes, my birthday's on Christmas Day. And,
Is it kind of a ripoff?
okay, so I'm not to sound like materialistic, but when I was a kid, all your friends would get to have a pizza party on their birthday.
Right.
Or in class, the kids would sing to the birthday boy or girl, and then
Right.
you'd have cupcakes. Well, obviously, Christmas Day, we don't have class.
Right.
None of my friends want to hang out because they want to be with their families so they can open presents. So when I was young, I would always be like, it's not fair. My birthday's on Christmas. I have to share it with Jesus. And, but I'm always positive. And so on the positive side, nobody forgets my birthday.
Right.
And so Christmas Day, I always get a lot of texts that are like, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday. So that's fun. And then another plus side is like, everybody's in a great mood.
Right.
Everybody's celebrating and rejoicing, So that's the good side of it. But I do work a lot on my birthdays too. So it's like, oh man, it's almost like if on days that I work, man, I'm working Christmas and my birthday. I don't even get to like one day to celebrate. But I'm excited. I'm off Christmas this year.
So I think we should, if you're listening to this show today on Cashflows,
Mhm.
it would be nice to take a minute and text Chen happy birthday. We're recording this at the end, almost to January. This will probably air in early to mid-January, actually. And I think it'd be fun if we could get like 1,000 people to text Chen happy
Yeah.
birthday. That would be something. So,
That's great.
but if you don't know our number, we're not going to broadcast that.
You can find me on social media, though.
555-1234.
I actually have a number for Santa Claus that you can dial. We should
Oh, that's
post
so
that
cool.
up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we
Someday.
may do that. Okay, so we've all made mistakes in life. Life is hard, business is hard.
Mhm.
We bump into things and we fall over. But weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And that's an ad from the 70s. Sorry, you'll have to look that one up. But like if you could do something over, like if there was a part of your life that you got to do over, what would that be like? What would that be?
The only thing I would do over is I wish I would have spent more time with my dad before he died.
Yeah.
But the problem with that was it was so sudden. Speaking of Christmas, so Christmas of 2022, Christmas 2022, again, my birthday, he went to the emergency room for shortness of breath. And so he had a heart condition. He had arrhythmia. So it was not abnormal for him to have shortness of breath. And in fact, he would go to the hospital every few months because of shortness of breath. And then they would give him medicine. And he would be there for 3 to 5 days to get all the extra liquid out. And then he'd be good. So we were thinking that was the situation. And he went to the hospital and they did all of these x-rays and tests. But unfortunately, it was not liquid.
Mm.
It was not fluid. It was cancer all over his body.
Mm.
So we never knew he had cancer. And I took my parents to all their appointments. And he had testing done often because of the different medications he was on. And we never suspected cancer. There were never any indications that he could be sick with cancer. And it was so fast. He went from the hospital to hospice care and he died 8 days later.
Oh my gosh.
So, as soon as I found out he had cancer, I took time off of work and I spent every moment I could with him. But I wish I would have spent more time with him before. I think having such a work ethic at times put me in a place in which like all I knew was hard work instead of like relaxing and spending time with my parents. because when I had both parents, it would be like work, appointments with them, work. And I wish I would have maybe taken them on more trips and cut back on work. But I think it's because knowing that I'm their financial responsibility and, you know, I was the breadwinner of the family, and so I'm just such a disciplined person that I think it's hard for me to let go and let loose sometimes.
Right.
So that would be my only regret, is that I didn't cut back on work and spend more time with my parents, especially my dad. But losing my dad opened my eyes to, again, reminding me how short life is. So I do a lot of stuff with my mom.
I love
Fun
watching you with
things.
your mom, man.
Mhm.
She's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And the relationship that you guys have now, and with what she's given up and what you gave up and what it is now.
Yeah,
When you said, it's turned out the way it's supposed to, it's a beautiful thing.
that's right.
So we're going to take a studio break here just for a moment, and we're going to ask Mr. Kenneth to share our lovely sponsors. Kenneth.
Yes, sir. All right, so we do have some great sponsors. The one we're going to feature in this particular podcast is Elevate Coworking. Elevate Coworking is where local business owners connect, collaborate, and grow. We offer a community of tools and resources to fuel your passion and your productivity. Elevate your future with us, where success is not just achieved, but celebrated together. Elevate Coworking.
All right, we're here with our guest today, Chinh Doan. For those that want to reach out to Chinh, you can find her at chindoan.com. Is that
That's
accurate?
right. Mhm.
Okay, chindoan.com, CHINHDOAN, chindoan.com. And reach out, get to know Chinh. She has her own business in the health and wellness industry, skincare. She's also a very accomplished makeup artist. And you do, so Kenneth is a photographer and a videographer and a podcast guru of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And do you do headshots for people?
I have. Yeah, I've done some headshots before.
Headshots are vital, I think. And do you have a makeup person you use?
I don't always have a makeup person, but I have had Chinh out to do makeup for me before.
Oh, there we go.
did
Okay,
some
so you guys have
actor
collaborated.
headshots. Yeah, we did some actor headshots earlier this year, which was pretty fun. And yeah, she came out and it was a fun day.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
changed up the looks too.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did. We switched up looks even during the headshot. So
All right.
since it's for an actor, we kind of went everywhere from having, the young and the restless all the way through, police officer. And I'm trying to think of what else we did. Maybe even adding a little bit of age in there for some of those as well. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Fun stuff.
Chinh does all kinds of great things. Makes people look beautiful. And
It comes down to making sure people feel confident.
Yeah.
Because when somebody knows that they can trust you with creating the look that they want, then they feel confident, and it shows in their pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Very cool. Well, let's move on a little bit. Part of one of the reasons I need Jesus is because I want to get back at people. Can I say that?
You can.
That's I think that's in some people. And when you start to elevate and accelerate in a world where people knew the old you, and then they see the new you that's climbing in a direction, we have critics out there, and the internet has made it very easy.
Oh, yeah.
There are a whole bunch of people out on the internet criticizing
Keyboard warriors.
the keyboard warriors, man, sitting in their mom's basement in their underwear. And all two of their followers are with them.
Yes.
And and I don't know if you've had any of that. It would be hard to imagine that somebody would be critical of you. But what do there are critics in the world.
I've had many critics.
Okay.
Considering what I do for a living on TV.
Right.
We've had, and it's not just me. We have strange viewer emails that will email the entire newsroom to complain about somebody's hair, shoes.
We get that a lot, Kenneth and I do.
Right, the hair and shoes, right?
Yeah.
I'm replying to an email right now about Cash's hair, actually.
Right.
Yeah, that's the best I can do.
But when it's something silly like that, I
blow it off.
I know it's not me. Like, I'm not a bad person because you didn't like my shoes or whatever. But when it's something that maybe is substantial, I try to address it because I think a lot of times it comes down to misunderstanding, And I'm a big component on talking about it because most of the time it is misunderstanding.
Right.
And when you talk it through, you actually see their side and realize, oh, That was all
Okay.
me. I don't take criticism as something personal, um, because I know who I am as a person. I know the people who know me know my character,
Right.
know my intention. And I know intention is not always perception, which is why I think communication is so important.
Sure.
Because somebody could perceive something a certain way when your intent was the opposite.
Right.
But once you explain to them and have a conversation, almost all the time people are like, oh, that was all me. My
Right.
bad. Or a lot of times it's gossip and rumor, you
Yeah.
know?
I,
And
I
it's one
I
of those
understand
things
that, and I
that,
think that's unfortunate out there in the internet, and people
exactly.
may see you and have they just have their own opinion based on their own life and their own experiences, and the internet makes it so easy to just toss that stuff around as though it
Hmm.
was fact. But I think you have a good attitude towards, there's not much you can do about it. People seem to like look for fault as though there's some reward in it.
Well, because they don't know how else to say, well, why am I not here?
Right.
Oh, it's because so and so is taking up all the space. No, you're not here because you didn't put in the dedication and the hard work.
Yeah.
It's no one's fault that you're not here,
Right.
but some people just have to find someone else as their excuse,
And there's a lot of
Hmm.
that on the internet. I've experienced it. Um, I don't pay much attention to it.
No.
Once again, I know, I try to live my life in a certain way, and if somebody doesn't like the podcast or the Bong show or anything else that we're doing, like, okay, hey, cool story, bro.
And that's the thing for me is, how I respond to critics. If it's something that seems worthy, substantial, I respond to it,
Sure.
communicate. If they don't respond back, I've done my part, time to move on. And my thing is, I actually pray for those people because
Mm.
there's something wrong. There's
Right.
something they're missing.
There's something lacking.
Yeah, so
That's
I
Yeah.
good.
pray for them. I call it bless and release. I'm going to bless you and I'm going to release you from my life
Right.
because you are
Hmm.
not contributing in any way.
Yeah. Some people are a faucet and other people are a drain.
Yeah,
Yeah. When they're a drain, you kind of have to let them drain.
let them drain.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think I know the answer to this one, but I want to ask this one.
Okay,
Who's your hero?
my parents. For sure. I think about everything they've been through. My father was in the South Vietnamese military for 15 years. He dedicated his life to the South Vietnamese military for the war to end the way it did. And then he was captured and was a POW for 10 years. For him to take a 4-year-old child to America with no English, no money, no degree, not knowing whether we were going to be living on the streets. But he did it because he had such great faith in God.
Hmm.
He knew that no matter what, he has faith and has hope. And those were the two things that kept him going in the POW camp when he was a POW. People were dying left and right from disease, from killing themselves, from having no hope, no faith. He stayed strong in his faith because he had hope, because he knew he was going to get out and make a difference, and that he had hope in heaven. He knew that eventually he would be where he's supposed to be. And that was his mentality through his entire life. He was so dedicated to praying. Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, no matter where he was, he would say the rosary. And oftentimes he would call me, even if he knew I was busy. He would leave a message and say, hey, honey, I'm praying for you. Always. And I keep those voicemails because they're so precious to me.
Wow.
And then my mother, who in her first marriage to her first husband was abused in so many ways, but yet she still kept the faith and did everything she could to provide for her children, and then sacrificed her marriage and her baby, me, so that way I could go to America with my father. And she had hope that one day we would be reunited and that all her sacrifices would be worthwhile.
I want to get tickets to the premiere when they make a movie out of yours and your mom and dad's life.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful story. It's not one
It is.
to take lightly. It's one to learn from. Like I am genuinely, just the story. I am honored to be your friend, but the story at which you arrived here is simply amazing, and I think everybody feels that. So, all right, I think I might know the answer to this one. Um, I look at your life, and I know a little bit about it, and you've been willing to share with us. You've had lots of amazing days. I know graduation and your mom showing up or you going back to Vietnam.
Mm.
What is your most memorable day to this point?
Well, it used to be only one. Now I have two. My most memorable day will be in May of 2012 when I and my mom landed at Oklahoma City's at Will Rogers International Airport, and standing at the gate were my foster family, OU mascot cheerleaders, pom girls, my sorority sisters, my elementary school teachers, friends from elementary, but most importantly, my foster family and my dad. And I will never forget, my dad was so dressed up in his suit, and he had yellow roses. Do you know the significance of the color yellow?
I'm sorry, I don't.
So there's a song that talks about tie a little yellow ribbon for me, specifically in the Vietnam War era, when troops would come home not knowing if they still had a life at their home,
Hmm.
not knowing if their loved one had moved on. And if they saw a yellow ribbon, it meant that they were waiting for him.
Wow.
So my dad had yellow roses, signifying he was waiting for my mom. All this time, he's still hers.
Wasn't there a song in the 70s, Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree? Tony Orlando?
Is that the one?
That's the one.
Oh, that's the same. Okay, very good. All right. Now I do know this song.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I
Cool.
didn't know the significance of it.
The color yellow.
It's not just a pop song. It's like a
Wow.
cultural thing. Well, very
And then,
cool.
Yeah, and then I will never forget, my dad grabbed my mom and they started dancing in the middle of the airport. And everybody was cheering and laughing. And if you ever want to see that video, it is at chindoan.com.
I'll reserve a box of Kleenex to weep, and I do want to go see that, and I'll make sure that we do that.
And then, of course, my other.
Yeah, the other goes without saying.
December 2nd, 2023.
The actual the royal wedding
when
of
I got
Tulsa.
to meet.
Right.
Yeah, that was such an amazing day. We think about it.
We were thankful to be there and to be part of it and to just be a witness to something that was beautiful. So,
But you weren't just a witness, Cash. The world needs to know. So my father died last year of cancer, so I wanted to do something to honor him and all the men in my life who've been incredible father figures. And so we had a slideshow, and we had the song I Hope You Dance by Rascal Flatts, which is one of my favorite songs because, again, it has the word hope in it.
right.
And we had a slideshow, and each man was surprised by his picture and his name. And I said, when you see your name and your picture, please come up here and share in this father-daughter dance with me. And Cash, you were one of those people.
Yep. Can we take a break here?
Sure.
Thanks for bringing that up. And I was blown away. Thank you for including me in your life. What a great moment that was, and to just that whole, all of it was great, and the planning and the excitement, and hey, have you picked a date out yet? Just knowing that you picked a date out, and it was great to be part of that. Okay, let's go the other direction because I'm going to weep. I weep openly at supermarket grand
I love
openings.
that, though.
So don't do this to me. All right, so you're around business people all the time. What do you see business people doing? What's the biggest common mistake you see out in the entrepreneurial world?
I would say two things. One, doing something over and over and over, not getting the results that you want. That's the definition of insanity,
Amen.
right?
Help
Amen.
us.
Truth.
It blows my mind when I see people who've been in business for years, and they talk about how, well, my business isn't doing what I want and this, so what are you doing? And then they tell me it's the same thing they've always been doing.
Right.
Somehow something's going to change without you doing it?
Right.
Okay. The other thing I also think is people giving up too quickly. They want immediate results because they're so used to Amazon Prime, right? They're used to ordering and 2 days shipping, and they think, oh, well, if I start my business, Amazon Prime it, and then 2 days later it's going to succeed.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
Yes, right? But so those were the two things that, for me is I'm always open to trying new things. In fact, I want to ask people, and that's why I hang around people like you and Kenneth, because you all are good at what you do, and I want to be around people who are better than me because I want to constantly grow. And I think that's another thing is some business owners have such a big head, sorry friends, but they're not willing to ask, how can I grow?
Right.
How can you help me? They're not willing to be vulnerable and see what's wrong with what they're doing to make sure that they can have improvements. In the end, your business is your future, and your future is how you provide for your family. So you have to think of the end goal. And if you're not growing and changing how you do things, you're not going to grow. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do for your family.
True that. Yeah, and especially like in our networking group of 5,500 entrepreneurs, you get to see a little bit more of that. And, we're always hopeful for people that they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it takes a mentor. It takes taking your ego is not your amigo.
That's right.
Like it just absolutely, and they just keep doing the same thing over and over. And
Because they think they know it all.
yeah, those people have a certain struggle in front of them. I think Mark Twain said it best. He said, "You could learn to like a hot stove if you sit on it for long enough." And people get in this rhythm of doing the thing that isn't working and expecting a different result. And,
Right.
and you described that as insanity. And I know that you've been a mentor to the people who are in your sales group at Synergence. And what a great thing that you guys have, that they can turn to you and you can turn to the other leaders in the group and go, hey, here's what we've learned.
That's right.
This is not an opinion. Here's what we've learned.
That's right.
That'll work. And that's why it's so much fun to work with, like, super young people, that maybe you can help them avoid some of the mistakes.
That's right.
Very cool. All right. It's time for a golden nugget from Chinh Doan.
Yes.
Chinh, give us one thing that you would want to say to the business world or the personal world that you would just consider a nugget, something they can take with them at the end of this show.
Make time blocking your best friend. I've mentioned this. We are all limited on our time.
True.
Time is money. Money is time. So for you to make sure you don't waste your time and for you to prioritize what you want in your business, you have to time block. And for me, I've held a physical planner since 5th grade.
Wow.
I started learning time blocking in 5th grade. One of my teachers got us all planners and said, you have to write down every day, what did you do today? What are your priorities for this week? What are some goals? And then homework and things like that, or extracurricular activities and things like that. That has always stood with me. Anytime you see me, my planner goes with me. That is my life. I can look back on this date on certain time, and I know this is what I did at 9:05, 9:00. Like seriously, I'm all about time blocking, to the point where if I run errands, I know what time I'm going to each store, what time I'm stopping at a gas station, what time I'm eating, and what time I'm sleeping.
Wow.
So I try my best not to waste my time. Now, I give my time for luxury. Like, I give myself maybe 30 minutes to scroll through social media, catch up on things. Because that is important. You do need to know what's
Sure.
going on in life, what's trending, what's funny, what's pop culture talking about today,
Right.
So I'm not saying like don't have any fun or you can't Facebook scroll. You can. It's just you got to limit yourself on the time,
Right.
or else 3 hours later, you didn't get anything done. And then
Truth.
you end up being distracted because you commented on this post and then a friend responded and then you commented, and it's just like it goes on and on and on and on. So
Right.
you have to cut yourself off, And
All
then
right.
yeah, so and then I make intention for date nights. And so there are certain times of the week that is a non-negotiable for me. I will not do any work. That's my date night with my husband.
Chinh, you live a beautiful life.
It's a hot mess, but it is
Well,
beautiful.
you know what? Isn't it great that we can live in a country where you can be a hot mess and be
Yes.
successful
Yes.
and enjoy the process? We're here today with Chinh Doan. You can find everything you need to know about Chinh on chindoan.com. That's CHINHDOAN, chindoan.com. Chinh, you've been a wonderful guest today, as we fully expected. We would love to have you back. Can you do the next 30 sessions in a row?
Yes.
Well, look, we've collaborated on things before. Maybe we'll just...
She'll have to time block it. It can't be on
Yeah.
date night.
Oh, okay, we're busy that night. So anyway, Kenneth, let's wrap this up and
Let's do it.
let's lead us out of here. So we're glad you stopped by today. Thank you to all of our sponsors: Elevate Coworking, Kenneth Bauckham Video Productions, Clarence Shaw at cmcustoms.com, and those wacky people at joinmfp.com. We're glad you're here today. We hope you've had a good time. Our guest was Chinh Doan, who has shared her magnificent life with us. And the great thing about you, Chinh, is you're just as normal and human as everybody else, but you're willing to be vulnerable, and we think that's beautiful. So until our next show, thanks for coming to Cashflows. We hope you'll join us again. And I want to thank our 3 listeners in Shawnee, Oklahoma, where I'm from, for just being here with us today. And for the 3 or 4 of you that continually like mine and Kenneth's posts, hey man, we're going to run over to Brahms. Want to grab a burger with us? Thank you all for being here.
That's our show for today. Stay tuned for another riveting edition of Cashflows.